The bounty hunters. 24 separate different chambers, cubic formation, each one with some form of theme. We're currently in the stone one, which is directly beneath the heart. Plant matter is below it. Past the plan is what appears to be darkness. The others have some amount of light, and the one below plants does not. There are also ones that appear dripping wet, some that are shedding flakes of ash. I think one is crawling with insects. And the fog is a little thick around the others. I can't make them out. So plant, stone, fire, water, insects, and darkness are known themes. All things found on planets, but no more pattern besides. Experiments, maybe? Different test groups in different areas with a control is exactly what happens in a lab. The hat questions. Likely, Dong, what are you doing? Something I've been practicing. We need a closer look, Dong says, crouching down and gathering axiom around him. The suit's real trick was to allow the user to use axiom without disturbing it, meaning you had complete freedom of use coupled with stealth, perfect for infiltration and assassination. Look only. Do not enter any of those chambers alone, Pookie says, and Dong gives a thumbs up before launching upwards. The takeoff is so potent that it kicks up a wind around all of them. That's concerning. Dong seems to have outright stopped in midair, still visibly moving upwards but growing no smaller in their vision, and clearly no closer to the segmented constructions. It takes 15 seconds for the man to start to slow down, and then he drops what appears to be 10 meters, even though by all rights he should have moved hundreds if not thousands. He lands silently, and there is clear concern in his eyes. Apparently, we're not allowed to take shortcuts. We could probably force it, but not without enormous repercussions. We leave it for now, Pookie says. No point poking the bear until the traps are set. Dong agrees. There's a crack and a bang followed by J3 cursing under his breath. A shattered column of chalk-white stone is next to him, and he reholsters his sidearm. Sorry, sir, it startled me. We may not be poking the bear, but it's poking us, Dong notes. Clearly. Still, that does let us know that it has more than the ability to watch and shift the environment to another preset state. It can also alter it to suit its purposes, Bike remarks as he looks around. You have something more to tell us? Pookie asks. The beacon I dropped. It's registering at less than 50 meters and over 50 kilometers simultaneously. Bike says, looking over a scanner he then reattaches to his belt. Irritating or not, it's still a useful point of data. We now know that when the area shifts, the environment is actively being moved around us, Pookie replies. Let's backtrack and find the differences. They silently turn back to the house they had come from, and the door is barred. But not barred enough for it to resist the hat for more than 3 seconds. But the fact that there's a crystalline cracking sound as it happens says a great deal. The chunks of crystal that slide out of slots and clatter onto the ground lets them know exactly what was going on. Checking parallel to the lungs, Mr. T says, and they form up behind him before he opens the door. A miniature avalanche of chalk-dusted crystals rolls out and spreads over the floor. The large man reaches down and picks one up. It's shaped like a human skull. Alas. Huh? Pookie remarks as he steps around Mr. T and shines his light right into the closet. Nothing else but more crystal skulls covered in chalk dust. Lungs, skulls. Do you think this has something to do with that puppet you piloted, Pookie? Bike asks, and Pookie shrugs. I don't know. If it's supposed to be my skull, then it's off the mark pretty hard. It brings to mind Captain Crunch more than horror to me. I don't know. A pissed-off sea captain who can crunchitize a person sounds like something out of a horror movie if you swing it right. J3 mocks and gets a swat on the shoulder by Tang. Heh? All right, enough horsing around. I want this building understood inside and out. If there is another entrance, I want to be able to play hopscotch with it. This place is trying to be a mystery. We win by unwrapping and understanding it, Pukey says, and they all quickly form up on the opposite door to the crystal skull room and find another empty closet. All walls are tapped and the floor is solid, but Mr. T's hand phases through the ceiling without issue. 10 seconds later, and Bike is extending a camera on a stick through the ceiling. He then nearly loses it as it starts to fall through when the heavier camera moves past a certain point. The ceiling connects to another ceiling, so passing through it means gravity doing a 180 on you. A beacon is dropped on the closet floor and they quickly start scanning through the rest of the house. Chalk dust covers everything, and there's the occasional chunk of crystal here and there. A few of them have skull-like shapes embedded in them. The room that's parallel to the one they entered in when things were covered in vegetation is like the inside of a cave. The walls are made of solid chalk but are clearly broken by crystal growth stretching outwards, several of which are not only forming skulls but also the beginning of spines as well. The furthest one along has 3.5 crystal vertebrae. Mustard lets out a whistle to draw everyone's attention to him. He gestures them over and they all gather around. This one has a different composition. The skull is outwardly the same as the others, but the others can be mostly seen through. This one cannot. There's something inside it. Guns are held up just in case as Mustard reaches out and grabs the skull before pulling. There's a crack and suddenly the exterior shatters. Blood falls to the floor as fingers tense somewhat, but not enough for an accidental weapon discharge. The crystal skull was overtop an actual one. "I wonder," Airfarce asks, stepping around and slamming his armored fist into the crystal protrusion the skull is growing from. It shatters with ease and reveals that the skull has a full spine and goes down to a fully formed pelvis, all soaked in blood but lacking anything like veins, organs, or nerves, just bones and blood. The hat crouches down and examines the bones. No tool markings, no signs of previous damage. Despite their misplacement, these bones are perfectly healthy. "Couldn't be my puppet then. There was spinal damage near its termination," Pukey remarks. "Still, a full 33 vertebrae. This is a match for human anatomy. The blood is dead," Bike remarks as he tucks away the scanner he had just been using. Everyone turns to him. The blood is dead. It should be turning black at this point, but it's still bright red. "Curious," Pukey notes, and everyone turns as something hits the ground behind them. One of the crystal skulls is now resting on the floor and begins to roll away as they watch. There, in fact, a great deal of movement not too far away, and they follow it to witness the last of the crystal skulls pile into the storage closet they were found in, and the door closes. "Well, that was blatant," the hat says. "The eyes haven't shown up in about 10 minutes. Maybe the entity lost track of us?" Tang asks. "More likely lost interest. Something we should take advantage of," Pukey confirms. "So this is how it acts when it—" Mustard begins, and there's a pulse from the heart outside and everything shivers. The dust is gone, and the earthy smell that no one really noticed but are definitely noticing the absence of vanishes. That was... An eye blatantly opens and observes them all. No one can move, no one can speak, and even their eyes are locked in place. It closes after a few moments and everyone starts breathing easily again. "What the—" The hat begins only for numerous eyes to appear and stare. They're frozen again, unable to move while being watched. Unfortunately, breathing counts as movement. They close again, and they all breathe once more. Before anyone can say anything, Pukey holds up a hand with an open palm to indicate they stop before putting a finger to his lips. Everyone nods. They've gotten the message loud and clear. Pukey indicates the light sources in the room, and Tang and J3 take aim. There's a pair of bangs later and the eyes are back. But in the darkness, it's revealed that wherever the eyes are based, there is some slight amount of light. Enough to illuminate the eyes, but not to illuminate the men who can still move in the darkness. Seeing nothing, the eyes vanish and the door to the next room opens. Everyone silently piles out, minds whirling but mouths closed as they consider and plan. They begin checking the building again, and in the middle of the entrance room is a soft spot in the floor that connects into a normal room's wall. They drop a beacon before heading back to check on the closet with the part. The eyes are there to stare at them the moment they open the closet and freezes them all in place as they behold the strange device. A strange, stretched-out thing suspended in mid-air, a bizarre shaped, something just above it that is attached near the top but also has a long, reaching thumb on it. This something has a knob that spreads upward to connect to another item that stretches out and away. There is what almost looks like a rib pushing in from beyond, pushing the something down onto the thing. "What?" Pukey begins, and the stretched-out thing vibrates, causing the other item directly on it to shake and then rattle the other. The rib pushes down on it, and the eyes immediately return and stare. When they leave again and the men can move, Pukey holds up a hand to indicate a stop before pointing to his ear. He looks back and sees everyone nod. They step back into the darkness they have made and close the door to block out the light. "All right, just to establish things," Pukey says, the eye arriving partway through it and looking around for them. In this setting, our friend the entity is hyper-paranoid about sound, will cause anything it looks at to play an extreme game of red light, green light, and has what appears to be the workings of an inner ear going on in its little experiment cupboard. It's clearly studying humanity. It's not using the puppet you sent in directly, but it's modeling things off of it for study. Mustard adds within the darkness. Also, we've discovered that the room with the eyes is moderately well lit, and it has poor, if any, night vision. Tang notes almost blandly. From where his voice is coming from, he's crouched down to look closer at the gap the eye is looking through. Also, it seems to be not so much a wall of eyes as something with an ungodly amount of eyes on its head. "Shh! Does anyone else hear that?" Airfarce asks, and everyone goes silent. "Nummy nums, num num." The sound is abruptly cut off as the eye hole vanishes. "That was two," Pukey notes. The eye returns along with the childish singing. "So she does have unlimited access," Bike notes. "Which means that if we can get to her and get her on our side, we'll have unlimited access as well," Pukey states. Not to mention, whatever this entity is, it's friendly to her. Or at least neutral with friendly leanings. She's its cook. Of course it likes her. Mr. T notes. "We have a new objective, men. Let's get out of this stop and go station and see if we can't locate that little girl. Wasn't that always one of the goals?" "Yes, but it's gone up in priority." "Hello? Where are those voices coming from? Is someone new here?" Tu asks out loud. "Yes, actually," Pukey says as he steps close to the hole in the air. "We're here to help you if we can." "Help? Why would I need help? I have my nephew, my sister, and my chores. What more do I need?" Tu asks, and the men are taken aback. "Who are you?" "I'm Captain Schmidt. My men and I have some bad news for you, I'm afraid." "Bad news? Where are you?" Tu asks. "We're in the place where if someone else is watching, we can't move. We had to break the lights so we could actually talk to each other," Pukey explains. "Oh no, Captain Schmidt, I have to replace those. That's very naughty of you." Tu chides him. "Well, I'm sorry, miss. But we really had to. We need to talk, and so long as we're being watched in this place, we can't even breathe." "That's your fault for being so very silly. Stop looking at them, nephewkins. They need to think about what they've done." Tu orders and the eye blinks away. "So she has control of it?" "Nephewkins? She's taking care of one, her sister. This thing was born of one. The hell happened to her?" "So, we've met the mother, the nanny, the surgeon, the metallurgist, geologist, accountant, and chemist. Assuming they go up to 12, there's still 5 more unaccounted for," Pukey notes. "That's assuming it's one that somehow gave birth to this entity. It could be any of our unaccounted for numbers, or even a zero or Iva Grace herself. Remember, clones default into siblings more often than children. And that is both legally and culturally, Bike says. Very true. Every scrap of an answer we get just unveils more puzzle, Pukey says before thinking. Priority one, though, is getting out of stop and go land. I don't like this entity having more control than it already does. Nothing more needs to be said as they slip through the darkness and start tapping at things. Eventually a wall is found and everyone freezes as the eye returns as the hat gives out a slight noise. It's not just voluntary movement but also basic physics. Because the moment the eye is gone, the hat falls further through it as he had not been in balance. A moment later and his hand reaches back through the wall and beckons them through. There's a bit of a surprise as it turns out the wall becomes part of the ceiling. There is an eye watching them drop down, but outside of that area it seems to have no power to freeze them, which is good news. You're certainly a mystery, Mr. T says to the eye that makes no movement to indicate any comprehension.